So if you're building cold frames and you're using an unheated greenhouse, such as my operation, there's something you want to take into consideration. So there's the cold frame, nothing to it, but now we see an insulation board on the bottom. So this is where all of my seed trays are going to go. And being unheated, you really have to hope Mother Nature doesn't get too cold or too warm at certain times. That affects the germination. So if I were to just put this directly on the soil, this soil is very cold to feel. Obviously in the winter months, there is a significant amount of cold into the ground. Now if I'm putting my seed tray on top of the cold earth, even though during the day the cold frame is heating the air, there will be some absorbance of that warm air onto the tray, onto the soil, and that should hopefully kickstart that germination. But if this seed tray is in contact with the cold dirt beneath the insulation, well then once the heat is gone through the night, a lot of that absorbed heat is then just going to go into the sink, that being the dirt itself. So you want to use, at least I'm going to try this year, something to insulate. It's not something to retain the heat. It is not there to cause it to be warmer or any of those sorts of things. It's simply just to insulate or create a barrier in between your warmed up soil tray that got warm during the day, and that warmth is not going to be fully retained, but at least retained enough that the loss isn't going to be crazy quickly if it was in direct contact with something cold. So this is, let's just say, room temperature touch. This, I just put the temperature in, is about 35 degrees. So if this was warm, its heat loss is going to be very quickly if it's in contact with the soil. If it's on the insulation board, that heat will be retained. I'm not anticipating throughout the whole night, the cold night or the winter nights, but at least it will be retained much more if it was in contact with the cold dirt. So something to think about when you're building your cold frames. You have to take into account not only the air that's heating up, but if it's going to be retained inside the tray itself, because that, if you can retain the heat inside the tray itself, you're going to promote faster germination.